Good morning and welcome to Miss Freel's class for the perennially sensitive. I am here to tell you today that your condition is not a flaw. It is in fact something that is happening globally around the world currently. We have been under a process, a system, an institution, a regime, a way of living, a lifestyle, pick whichever one applies to you, that has exposed our sensitivity as a species. It has also exposed our individuality as a species. And this works not just on the cellular level, but on the neurobiological level as well. And this is where I come in. I am your resident ADHD education consultant and a specialist in child and youth development for ADHD. Now, this is a study that I carried out from lived experience, having worked upon myself over the last 2.5 to 3 years. And in that time, I used all of my own research alongside Dr. Joseph Delaney, who's in Liverpool. He's a lecturer and a phenomenal human being. He will also back me up on this. And everything that I learned was the opposite of everything I had been taught about the nervous system, about health, about well-being, and also about neurodivergence. Currently, the medical systems indicate that neurodivergence is a flaw or an illness or something to be provoked, corralled, controlled, suppressed. Wrong, right? And it's wrong because if we look very carefully at the immediate organic environment that we live in and not just the news, right, we will come to see that in fact we are all neurodivergent. The whole of humanity is. And people are becoming more sensitive and not less. There are a bunch of reasons for that can also be research backed, but I'm not going to talk about them just for the moment. Instead, I want to talk about you. Now, if you have come across me, your FYP or your algorithm has said, this lady is someone I need to listen to, and it would be accurate, right? Because everybody should be listening to me right now because I know everything now, and that's no exaggeration. Seriously though, now, what I would love to have happen today is that you would check out the Body-Mind Connection ADHD and also look carefully at your own profile. There are things I learnt about ADHD as a whole that are really, really interesting and seem to apply to 90% of the population. It's strange. It's really strange. Maybe not 90%, but a large portion, right? So this neurodivergence, the emergence of this neurotype that no one's doing enough research on, has actually indicated to me that there are two separate profiles for this, and they are largely implicated by complex trauma, right? So you can be neurodivergent, but complex trauma then exposes the ADHD profile. And there are two forms of that profile, and they are often pathologized in medical systems. They are pathologized in that they become described personality disorders, but that's inaccurate, right? What we're actually dealing with is structural dissociation presenting in two different streams. So there's the narcissistic profile, and then there's the borderline or codependent profile, and it actually runs on a spectrum for both. And both of them are ADHD, right? And it's a spectrum that applies to a large portion of humanity. Those attachment issues, those complexities, those examples of complex trauma that appear inside of both those profiles, they apply to almost everyone given the reality that we've been living in currently and due to a long-term, serious and heavily covered attempt to suppress and desensitize humanity, and it hasn't worked, right? So I just wanted to make you aware that you're looking at a world right now, not that is suddenly very neurodivergent, but a world that is suddenly aware of itself. And ADHD is part of that awareness, right? And it presents as two different identities in a way. There's the hyperactivity, dopamine seeking, stimulation seeking, and difficulty concentrating. And then there's the other side, which is very rigorous, very determined, very monotropic in thinking and interests. And that in itself, that brain type, which is what it is a singular neurotype all on its own. Aren't I fantastic? Isn't it a great wee lesson? Are you still here? Well done. Gold star for you. Now, the beauty of this neurotype is that it has multiple gifts within it, but that sensitivity is as a result of chronic stress, and that is separate to the ADHD profile. That can be resolved. And that's where I come in. So if you look up the body-mind connection ADHD on YouTube, or look on Instagram or on Facebook, you will find me, right? And I have been sharing the information around the body-mind connection for some time. I am a long-time student of Dr. Joseph Delaney, and my findings came from inspiration in being part of his own teaching. And then I built upon what I learned for myself, my own life experience, and from there the body-mind connection process was born. What I am aiming to do is to access as many people as possible and teach them about emotional release in the body, about how that heals chronic dysregulation in the nervous system and reconnects the mind and the body systems. Like it is very, very important to healing, to learning, and to education. Now, I was also a secondary school teacher for about 15 years, and everything we've been taught about learning is also wrong. So let's correct that as well. The learning process is something that actively happens intrinsically inside of us when we are engaging with the world in any way possible. What academia has called learning is just one small segment of engagement with the world, and it does not translate neurobiologically inside of the child or the adult. The body is designed to learn and relearn, and it'll repeat patterns until a learning lesson is resolved. And this is on the biological, neurobiological level. And this goes on through the whole of our lives. Resolution happens when we make a new choice, and also when we release emotion. So intellect is not achieved through performance, it's achieved through emotional release and reflection on our own choices. And also creative means of creating a state of permanent safety, ventral vagal safety in the nervous system. So then the unique nervous system profile that we have can express itself. Most of what we call our personality is a form of defense. It's defense mechanisms that have formed around protectively that chronic dysregulation, or high sensitivity as we call it. What you will see in the media and common medical records is that sensitivity is considered an illness, and it's not. In this current climate, it's a sign of health. And what I aim to do is to work with teenagers and young people over the course of the next number of months. I am currently seeking a scholarship onto a teen mental health course to support and supplement my own work. And I am also opening a school called Sincerity School. A lot of schools if I can, depending on the funding, specifically for ADHD children and teenagers. Because if my prognosis is correct, quite a lot of humanity has this profile. A lot more than we think, right? So from everything that I found, and if you have a look, you'll find everything because I've put it all out there, you may discover that what is innate to us is creativity, expression, a love of learning, and a need for connection. But the principles of the body-mind connection are thus: if you are identified as a neurodivergent, you have learnt, right, or been taught that connection to self is unsafe. I begin the process of working with people by reconnecting you to your own body signals. I've been able to identify what is authentically you and what is just your mind playing tricks on you from a separated or dissociative state. So what I can do is reverse structural dissociation, right? And it requires a lot of really targeted emotional release, right? And specialised and personalised and bespoke to the people that I work with. And that includes young people. I'm focusing on them first because they matter. And I am open to working with adults as well, if that's something that would interest you. But what I'm trying to say is that those profiles I explained earlier, narcissism, borderline personality, codependency, avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, all the rest of that, it's simply states of neurobiological distress that we've accepted as normal and determined as part of being human or part of our makeup, when it's not. It's actually a product of chronic dysregulation, and most chronic dysregulation in the nervous system is low grade and unseen. It remains invisible due to high masking. I have reversed a lot of stuff in me and went through a really, really enormously tense and difficult circumstance in order to heal myself. And the power is that we can heal ourselves through emotional release, through personal accountability, through creativity and expression, and also through new neural pathways that open when we choose differently, right? So it's the body-mind connection, ADHD. You are not abnormal or a minority. You are part of a majority that is trying to be covered up at the moment, right? Because a lot of systems are going to have to backtrack on themselves once the research catches up. I've done the research already. I know what I'm talking about. And if you need help, it's actually going to work. Please get in touch.